Hearken to my voice, O wandering soul. Dost thou wonder why some are embraced by the divine, whilst others are left in the shadows, forsaken? It is no accident of fate. I am Onisaburo, one who has glimpsed the secrets of the spirit realm. In this tale, I shall reveal to thee the 7 truths to attain Shinjin-Goitsu, the union of man and God. This path leads from suffering to true salvation. Open thine heart, for if thou listenest to the end, thy destiny shall be rewritten. Art thou ready to awaken the God within thee? Chapter 1: The Mirror of Emptiness. Tell me, my dear friend, hast thou ever felt this way? In the quiet hours of the morning, when the world is yet asleep, thou risest from thy slumber and standest before the mirror. Thou gazest into thine own eyes reflected in the glass, and a question, heavy as lead, arises from the depths of thy soul. Why was I born into this world? For what purpose do I draw breath? The face staring back at thee seems weary, does it not? Thou goest forth to thy labor, chased by the demands of work, exhausted by the tangled webs of human relationships. Thou wearest a mask to please others, to seek their approval, to fit into the mold they have cast for thee. And when the sun sets and the day is done, thou liest upon thy bed, staring into the darkness. A hollowness spreads within thy chest, a profound emptiness. Thou thinkest, today, too, nothing has changed. Another day lost to the wind. Alas, I know this feeling well. Or perhaps, thou hast known a sharper pain. When thou hast lost one whom thou held most dear. When sickness has ravaged thy body or the body of a loved one. When the walls of life seem to close in upon thee, and thou hast struck the hard stone of adversity. In those moments of despair, hast thou not cried out from the bottom of thy heart? God, if thou art there, why dost thou give me such trials? Why must this world be filled with such suffering? I, Onisaburo, have walked a long path in this life. I have met countless people, thousands upon thousands. I have looked into the eyes of the wealthy and the poor, the learned and the unlettered. And I tell thee this: they all carry the same burden. They all harbor the same hidden scream within their souls. What is this burden? What is this suffering that binds all of humanity? It is the suffering of not knowing who thou truly art. Look around thee. The world has changed. Science has advanced beyond the dreams of our ancestors. We are surrounded by material abundance. We have machines that fly and lights that banish the night. Yet, despite this wealth of things, the void in the human heart grows deeper and darker. Why? Because men and women have become slaves to the approval of others. They have lost sight of their true self. I wish to speak to thee with a loud voice, to shake the slumber from thy spirit. The reason for thy suffering is simple: thou hast forgotten thy true form. Thou hast forgotten that thou art a being united with God. Within thee, yes, within thee who watch this now, there dwells a Wakematama. Let me explain this term, for it is the key to thy freedom. Wakematama means a divided spirit. It signifies that a fragment of the great divine spirit resides within thy very soul. Thou art not merely a creation of dust, thou art a part of the Creator himself. This may sound like a tale from a storybook, or a lie too sweet to believe. But hear me, this is the fundamental law of the universe. The path to true happiness, the path to Shinjin-Goitsu, the union of man and God, begins here. Why, then, art thou blind to this truth? Why do so many walk in darkness? It is because thou hast focused thine awareness solely upon the physical body and material phenomena. Imagine, if thou wilt, a dog barking at its own reflection in a pond, thinking it to be another dog. Thou art doing the same. When thou lookest in the mirror in the morning, thou seest a face, skin, and hair. Thou thinkest, this is me. But that is the great illusion. That is the source of thy pain. That image in the mirror is but a vessel. It is a temporary dwelling, a suit of clothes for the spirit. I ask thee to try a simple experiment, here and now. Consider thy heart. Even as I speak, it beats within thy chest. Thump, 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 thump. Canst thou stop it by the power of thy will? Canst thou command it, saying, Stop beating for a minute? Nay, thou canst not. Even when thou sleepest, even when thou forgettest it, it continues its perfect rhythm. Who is doing this? Is it thy conscious mind? No, it is the life force of the universe. It is the work of the wake matama within thee. Think of the moments when tears well up in thine eyes at the sight of a beautiful sunset, or the blooming of a cherry blossom. Think of the warmth thou feelest when thou holdest a child, or the awe thou feelest when hearing a profound truth. Where do these emotions come from? They are not merely chemical reactions of the flesh. It is the God within thee resonating with the God in the world outside. It is thy spirit remembering its home. I have observed many souls in my time. There is a vast chasm between those who recognize themselves as awake matama and those who do not. The man who believes he is but a lump of flesh is fragile. When the winds of fate blow hard, he is shaken. He fears death, for he thinks death is the end of his existence. He fears loss, for he thinks he possesses things. He lives in a state of constant anxiety. But the one who knows he is a spirit of God, he is different. Even in the midst of a storm, he remains calm. He knows that his essence cannot be harmed. He knows that he possesses the power to create, the power to love, and the power to heal. And most importantly, he has the eyes to see the same God dwelling within others. This, my friend, is the first step toward the union of man and God. It is not about gaining new powers or learning complex rituals. It is about remembrance. It is about waking up from the long dream that thou art just a normal person, a powerless individual. Thou art not normal. Thou art not ordinary. Thou art a vessel of the divine light. The universe itself is hidden within thee. Dost thou feel a spark of recognition? Does something in these words ring true to a part of thee that has been sleeping? Hold on to that feeling, for thy suffering comes from the separation from this truth, and thy healing shall come from its embrace. But to embrace this truth, we must understand what drags us away from it. We must look at the shadows that haunt our lives. Art thou brave enough to look at the darkness, so that thou mayest find the light? Chapter 2: The Shadow of Death. Death, it is a word that strikes fear into the hearts of men. It is the shadow that looms over every cradle, the silent guest at every feast. Dost thou fear it, my friend? Or hast thou ever stood so close to the abyss that thou couldst feel its cold breath upon thy face? Many of you living in this modern age may think of death as something distant, something that happens in hospitals, hidden behind white curtains. Or perhaps thou thinkest of it as the ultimate end, the extinguishing of the light, after which there is nothing but eternal darkness. Because thou fearest this end, thou clingest desperately to life. Thou endurest humiliation, thou betrayest thy conscience, all to preserve this fragile vessel of flesh for one more day. But let me tell thee of a moment when I, Onisaburo, stared directly into the eyes of death. It was the year 1924. I was far from the green hills of Japan, standing in the desolate plains of Mongolia. I had traveled there with a dream to unite the spiritual hearts of Asia and build a kingdom of peace. But the tides of history are treacherous. Caught in the turmoil of war, I and my companions were captured by a warlord's army. We were branded as bandits, as spies. The order was given execution by firing squad. Picture the scene, if thou canst. The place was called Paintala. The ruins of an old castle stood like broken teeth against the gray sky. The wind of the steppes blew fiercely, carrying the grit of sand and the smell of impending doom. We were lined up against a crumbling wall. My hands were bound behind my back, the ropes cut into my wrists, but I hardly felt the pain. All I could see were the soldiers before us, their rifles raised, the dark eyes of the barrels pointing straight at my heart. What wouldst thou think in such a moment? Wouldst thou beg for mercy? Wouldst thou cry out for thy mother? Wouldst thou curse the heavens for such a cruel fate? Why me? Thou mightest scream. I tried to do good. I tried to follow the will of God. Why must I die like a dog in this foreign land? I confess, the fear of the flesh is a powerful thing. The body does not want to die. It trembles, it sweats. But in that moment of absolute extremity, a strange silence descended upon my soul. The noise of the soldiers, the howling wind, the beating of my own heart, all of it seemed to fade away. I looked up at the vast Mongolian sky. It was indifferent to my plight. And yet, in that indifference, I found a profound clarity. I realized that this body might perish here. The wolves might gnaw upon my bones. My name might be forgotten, buried under the sands of time. But I, the true I, the spirit within, would not end. I composed a poem in my heart, a farewell to this world. Even if my body be exposed to rot upon the fields of Mongolia, I shall never lose the dignity of a Japanese spirit. I stood tall. I looked the executioner in the eye. I was ready to return to the source of all life. Click. The sound of the safety catches being released was deafening. I closed my eyes and waited for the impact of the bullet. 1 second, 2 seconds, an eternity passed in the space of a breath. But the shot never came. At the very last moment, a messenger rode in, shouting orders. It was the intervention of the Japanese consulate. By a hair's breadth, by a miracle that defies logic, our lives were spared. I fell to my knees, not in fear, but in awe of the mysterious workings of heaven. Why'd I tell thee this story? Is it to boast of my bravery? Nay, it is to tell thee that suffering and the threat of death are the great testers of the soul. I survived Paintala, but my trials were far from over. Upon returning to my homeland, I was not greeted as a hero, but as a criminal. The government, fearful of the spiritual awakening we were spreading, crushed our movement. They destroyed our temples with dynamite. They threw me into a cold, dark cell. For years, I endured interrogation and humiliation. Again, the question arose, why? Thou, too, surely facest thy own firing squad. Perhaps it is not a line of soldiers. Perhaps it is a diagnosis from a doctor that shatters thy future. Perhaps it is the betrayal of a spouse that breaks thy heart. Perhaps it is the financial ruin that threatens to take the roof from over thy head. These are thy, Paintala. These are the moments when the gun is pointed at thy head. And in these moments, thou sufferest. Thou sufferest because thou believest that this life is all there is. Thou sufferest because thou thinkest that pain is a punishment. But hear me well, suffering is not a punishment. It is a chisel. The divine artist uses the chisel of suffering to carve away the unnecessary parts of thy soul, to reveal the masterpiece hidden within. Without the fire, the gold cannot be purified. Without the crushing of the grapes, the wine cannot be made. If I had lived a comfortable life, a life of safety and ease, I would have remained a small man. I would never have known the depths of God's love or the strength of the human spirit. It was in the shadow of death that I found the light of eternal life. It was in the cold prison cell that I found the warmth of the inner sun. Dost thou feel trapped right now? Dost thou feel that the world is unfair? Do not turn away from that feeling. Do not try to numb it with cheap pleasures or distractions. Face it. Look at thy suffering. It is trying to tell thee something. It is shouting at thee, thou art more than this. Thou art not just this body that can be hurt. Thou art a spirit that cannot be broken. The shadow of death is terrifying, yes. The valley of darkness is deep. But thou must walk through it. For only by walking through the shadow canst thou reach the mountain top where the sun never sets. Yet, why do we suffer so? What is the root cause that invites such darkness into our lives? Is it merely fate, or is there a seed we ourselves have planted? To understand this, we must look at the chains that bind us, the chains we have forged with our own hands. Chapter 3: The Chains of Flesh. Hearken closely now, for we descend into the root of the matter. We have spoken of the emptiness that plagues thy soul, and the shadow of death that haunts thy steps. But surely, thou askest within thy heart, if I am truly a child of God, if I am awake Matama, then why does God feel so distant? Why does he not stretch forth his hand to save me from this mire? It is not that God has abandoned thee, my child. It is thou who hast turned thy back upon God. There is a law in this universe, as sure as gravity, as certain as the rising sun. God protects those who live by the principle of Rishu Taiju. Rei means spirit, Shu means master, Tai means body, Ju means servant. Rishu Taiju, the spirit is the master, and the body is the servant. This is the natural order of existence. The soul commands, and the flesh obeys. The invisible guides the visible. But look at the world around thee. Look at the modern man. He lives by the exact opposite law Taishu Reiju. The body is the master, and the spirit is the servant. He wakes up and thinks only of what to feed his belly. He goes to work only to fill his pockets with gold. He seeks pleasure to satisfy his skin. And his poor spirit? It is dragged along like a slave in chains, silenced, ignored, starving for nourishment. God is a spirit. He is pure, high vibration. Matter, when made the master, is heavy and low vibration. It is a question of wavelengths. Imagine a crystal clear spring flowing high in the mountains. Can a bucket of mud mix with it and remain pure? Nay, the oil and water do not mix. If thy vibration is heavy with greed, lust, and materialism, God cannot approach thee. It is not that he hates thee, it is that thy frequency repels his light. I have seen the spiritual world with my own eyes. I have seen how the gods look upon humanity. They choose. Yes, they choose. They look at a man and say, this one is compatible. I shall protect him. They look at another and say, this one is too dense. I must withdraw. So, what makes the gods withdraw? What are the chains that bind thee to the earth and sever thy connection to heaven? There are 5 great vices, 5 heavy stones that sink the soul. I ask thee to look into the mirror of thy conscience as I name them. Be honest. Do not look away. The first vice is the refusal to reflect. There are those who never look back at their own actions. They make mistakes, they hurt others, yet they say, I am right. They are wrong. It is the world's fault. This is the stagnation of the soul. Without reflection, there is no cleansing. Without cleansing, the dust accumulates until the mirror of the soul is buried in filth. God turns away from such a one, for he has closed the door to growth. The second vice is the lack of shame. To know shame is to be human. To do wrong and feel the burn of conscience, that is the sign of a living spirit. But look at the Taishu Reiju man. He lies and feels nothing. He cheats and smiles. He betrays a friend for profit and sleeps soundly. He acts like a beast in human skin. When a man loses his sense of shame, he ceases to be a vessel for the divine. He becomes a hollow shell, and God departs. The third vice is the lack of fear. I do not mean the fear of cowards. I mean the holy fear, the awe of the heavens. The modern man fears nothing. He thinks, I can conquer nature. I can control life. I am the god of my own world. This is the height of arrogance. Does he not see the storm that crushes his city? Does he not see the invisible virus that brings his civilization to a halt? There are forces beyond human comprehension. To have no fear of the divine, no reverence for the great nature, is to invite destruction. The fourth vice is ingratitude. This is the most common sin of all. Thou complainest, I do not have enough money. My house is too small. My nose is too big. Foolish one, who gave thee the breath in thy lungs? Didst thou pay for the sunlight that warms thee? Didst thou create the water that quenches thy thirst? Everything is given. Everything is a gift. To take these miracles for granted and demand more. God looks upon such a soul with sadness and says, if thou canst not appreciate what thou hast, why should I give thee more? The fifth vice is arrogance. I am special. I am better than him. I am chosen. Hear me well, in the eyes of God, the emperor and the beggar are equal. The scholar and the fool are made of the same light. The moment thou thinkest thou art superior, thou buildest a wall between thee and God. For God dwells in the low places, like water. He flows to the humble. He flees from the proud. Reflect now, my friend. Dost thou carry these stones in thy pocket? Lack of reflection, lack of shame, lack of fear, ingratitude, arrogance. These are the reasons thy life feels heavy. These are the reasons the Taishu Reiju life leads only to suffering. But do not despair. The fact that thou art listening to this means thou art ready to cast off these chains. Thou art ready to flip the order, to make the spirit the master again, to make the body the servant, to live Rishu Taiju. It begins with a simple choice. Instead of asking, what can I get? Ask, what can I give? Instead of saying, I am great, say, I am grateful. Reduce thy material desires. I do not say destroy them, for we are human, but reduce them. Give more time to thy soul. Pray, meditate, sit in silence for 10 minutes a day. Polish the mirror. When thou doest this, the vibration changes. The mud settles, the water clears, and God, who has been waiting patiently at the door, will draw near again. He will say, ah, this one is ready. The frequency matches. I shall dwell here. But there is another trap. A trap that lies not in thy actions, but in thy mouth. A subtle poison that thou drinkest every day without knowing. We must speak of the power that shapes reality itself. We must speak of the word. Chapter 4: The Curse of Tongue. Now, silence thy mind and listen well. For we enter the realm of invisible forces that shape the very ground thou walkest upon. We have spoken of the heavy chains of the flesh. But there is a weapon, sharper than any sword, more destructive than any fire, which thou carriest with thee every moment of every day. It is hidden behind the fortress of thy teeth. It is thy tongue. In the ancient wisdom of Japan, we call the power of language Kotodama. Koto means word. Tama means spirit or soul. Every word thou speakest is not merely a sound vibrating in the air. It is a living thing. It has a soul. It carries an energy that ripples through the fabric of the universe. Many of you think, words are just tools. I say what I think. It means nothing. But that is the most dangerous ignorance of all. Let us look at this world with the eye of objective truth. How was this universe created? In the beginning, there was the void. And then, the divine will express itself through sound. Let there be light, and there was light. The universe itself is woven from the vibrations of the divine word. And thou, created in the image of the divine, possessest the same power on a smaller scale. Thy mouth is a portal of creation. But look at how the modern man uses this sacred instrument. Observe the words that fall from thy lips like withered leaves. I am tired. I am useless. I have no luck. It is impossible. I hate him. Dost thou realize what thou art doing? When thou sayest, I am useless, thou art issuing a command to the universe. The Kotodama carries that intention, flies out into the ether, gathers the energy of failure, and brings it back to thee as a physical reality. Thou sayest it, so it becomes true. And because it becomes true, thou sayest it again. It is a cursed cycle, a spiral descending into darkness. I have witnessed this horror on a grand scale. Let me speak of the days of the war of fire and water. This was not only a spiritual conflict within our sanctuary but a reflection of the world's turmoil. When our movement grew strong, the world turned its fearful eyes upon us. The newspapers, the politicians, the fearful masses, they unleashed a storm of poisonous words. Devils, traitors, madmen. These words were not just insults. They were black magic. They poisoned the air of the nation. They twisted the minds of the people. The ink spilled by the press turned into the blood spilled in the streets. I saw how words of hatred created a reality of violence. The government, fueled by these accusations, crushed our temples. They dynamited the house of God because they were terrified of the word we spoke. Why? Because they knew, deep down, that the truth has power. And they sought to drown the truth with lies. But look also at thine own life. It is no different. Think of the last time thou quarreled with a loved one. Words were spoken in anger. Sharp words, cruel words. I wish you were gone. And then, silence. A coldness enters the room. The relationship cracks. Even if thou sayest, I am sorry, later, the Kotodama has already done its work. The arrow has struck the target. The wound remains. For the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. It defiles the whole body, and sets on fire the course of nature. Why does thy life not change? Why does the same misfortune visit thee again and again? It is because thou keepest calling it by its name. Thou wackest up and sayest, another terrible day. And lo, the day becomes terrible. Thou lookest at the news and sayest, the world is going to hell. And lo, the world descends a step further. Stop, I implore thee. Stop this suicide of the soul. God gave thee language to bless, not to curse. To create, not to destroy. The condition of thy life today is the sum total of the words thou hast spoken in the past. If thou desirest a new life, thou must speak a new language. But I hear thy protest. Onisaburo, how can I speak good words when my reality is so bad? Am I to lie? Nay, it is not lying. It is prophecy. When a farmer plants a seed, he does not see the fruit. But he calls it a wheat field, even when it is bare earth. He speaks to the future. So must thou. In the midst of my imprisonment, when I was surrounded by stone walls and the jeers of guards, did I say, I am finished? Did I say, I am a prisoner? Never. I spoke of the kingdom of God. I dictated the Reikai Monogatari, the tale of the spirit world. I sang songs. I made poems. I filled that dark cell with the Kotodama of light. And that light protected me. It kept my spirit free even when my body was bound. My friends, the power of Kotodama is not conditional. It does not work only when things are going well. It works especially when things are dark. That is when thou needest it most. If thou continually speakest of thy weakness, thou deniest the God within thee. For God is not weak. And if God is within thee, thou art not weak. Are thy words building a palace for thy soul, or a dungeon? Check thy speech. Catch thyself when the negative thought reaches the tip of the tongue. Swallow it back. Do not let it be born. For once it is spoken, it walks on its own legs. We have seen the cause of suffering, the illusion of the material self, the vices of the heart, and the curse of the uncontrolled tongue. The diagnosis is complete. The disease is identified. Now, we must find the cure. We must find the path that leads out of this labyrinth. And for me, that path began not in a palace, but in a cave. Let me take thee back to the moment of my awakening. To the moment when the silence spoke louder than any word. Chapter 5: The Awakening in the Cave. We have walked through the valley of the shadow of death. We have examined the chains of the flesh and the poison of the tongue. Now, the night is at its darkest. But remember, my friend, it is always darkest just before the dawn. The time has come to turn the page. The time has come to step out of the nightmare and into the awakening. Let me take thee back to the turning point of my existence. The year was Meiji 31, 1898 by the Western calendar. I was 27 years old. To the eyes of the world, I was a failure. My businesses had collapsed. My father had passed away, leaving a void in my heart. My body was battered by injury. I was like a ship without a rudder, drifting in a stormy sea of despair. I looked at the mirror and saw a man with no future. Have I not described thy current state? Are not thou also drifting? In that moment of absolute deadlock, a voice called to me. Not a voice of this world, but a whisper from the unseen. It guided me to a place of power, Mount Takakuma. Leaving behind my family, my debts, and my fears, I climbed the mountain. I found a small cave, a womb of stone in the heart of the earth. There, I sat. I vowed not to eat, not to drink, not to sleep, until I found the truth. 1 week, 7 days and 7 nights of solitude. Imagine the silence. No sound of carriages, no chatter of men. Only the wind howling through the pines and the beating of my own heart. Hunger gnawed at my belly like a wolf. Thirst parched my throat until it felt like cracking parchment. The cold seeped into my bones. My body screamed, "Stop! Go back! This is madness. This was the rebellion of the flesh, the Tai fighting against the Ray. But I held firm. I sat like a rock. I focused my mind on the divine. And then, as the physical world began to fade, something miraculous happened. The teachings of my grandmother, Uno, came flooding back to me. She was a wise woman, a master of the ancient arts of Kotodama. In my youth, she had taught me that the world is built on spirit, that words have power, that gods walk among us. I had heard her words with my ears, but I had not understood them with my soul. But there, in the starvation and the cold, the seed she had planted burst open. Suddenly, a sensation unlike anything I had ever known seized me. My spirit loosened. It was as if a heavy coat was lifted from my shoulders. I looked down, and I saw my own body sitting there, motionless, like a discarded shell. I was free. I was no longer Onisaburo the failure. I was pure consciousness. I was light. I traveled through the dimensions. I saw the past, the present, and the future flowing like a single river. I conversed with the deities of the mountain. I saw the structure of the universe, how the spiritual world interweaves with the material world. I saw the karma of humanity. I saw the suffering of the masses, not as a random cruelty, but as a result of their own spiritual slumber. And I heard the great voice of the universe. It did not speak in human language, but in a thunder of understanding that shook my very core. It said, "Thou art the Savior. Thou art the bridge. Go forth and mend the world." I realized then the purpose of my suffering. Why did I fail in business? To learn the emptiness of material pursuit. Why did I lose my father? To learn to look for the Father in heaven. Why was I injured? To learn the fragility of the flesh. Everything, every tear, every scar, every humiliation, was a preparation. It was the fire used to forge the sword. God had not abandoned me. He had been breaking me down so he could build me up again, stronger, clearer, purer. When I descended from that mountain after 1 week, I was a changed man. My eyes shone with a terrifying clarity. My voice carried the weight of the earth. I was no longer just a man. I had become Onisaburo. I had attained the first stage of Shinjin-Goitsu. The fear was gone. The anxiety about tomorrow was gone. I knew who I was. I was awake Matama of the Creator, sent on a mission. And here is the secret I wish to share with thee. That cave on Mount Takakuma? It is not just a place in Kyoto. It is right here. It is wherever thou art right now. Thy room, thy office, thy hospital bed, that is thy cave. Thy suffering, thy loneliness, thy confusion, that is thy fasting. God has driven thee into this corner not to crush thee, but to awaken thee. Thou art in the middle of thy initiation. Dost thou not feel it? The pressure thou feelest is the pressure of the birth canal. Thy old self, the self that is small and afraid and attached to things, is dying. Let it die. Do not cling to it. Something new is trying to be born through thee. A spirit that is vast, ancient, and powerful. I found the answer in the silence. I found that the only way to end the suffering is to stop fighting the current and become the river. I found that the spirit must lead, and the body must follow. I found that joy is not something thou chasest, it is what thou art when the clouds clear away. But how? How dost thou bring this mountaintop realization down into the marketplace? How dost thou keep this high vibration when the boss yells at thee, when the bills pile up, when the world tries to drag thee back into the mud? I discovered a secret weapon, a tool so simple, yet so powerful, that it can open the rock door of heaven instantly. It is something the gods themselves used to bring light back to the world. Art thou ready to learn this secret? Art thou ready to leave thy cave and step into the sun? Then wipe the tears from thine eyes, straighten thy back, and prepare thy face. For the next truth I share requires not a grimace of effort, but something much lighter. Chapter 6: The Divine Laughter. Behold the face of the enlightened man. What dost thou see? Is it a face of stone, grim and serious? Is it a face etched with the lines of difficult penance? Nay, The face of the one who has touched the divine is a face that shines like the morning sun. It is a face that is ready to burst into laughter. We have spoken of the heavy chains that bind thee. Now, let us speak of the key that unlocks them instantly. It is a key thou carriest with thee always, yet thou used it so sparingly. It is the power of warai, laughter. Dost thou know the ancient myth of Japan, the tale of the Amano Iwato, the heavenly rock cave? Long ago, the sun goddess, Amaterasu, was offended by the violent deeds of her brother. In her grief and anger, she hid herself away in a deep cave and rolled a massive boulder across the entrance. Instantly, the world was plunged into eternal night. Crops withered, evil spirits roamed the land. The other gods were in despair. How did they bring the light back? Did they use force to pry the rock open? Did they weep and beg for her return? Nay, they threw a party. They gathered outside the cave. They danced. They played music. They laughed so loudly that the heavens shook. Curious, the sun goddess peeked out to see the source of such joy. "Why do you laugh when the world is dark?" she asked. "Because there is a god here brighter than thee." They jested. Intrigued, she opened the door a crack. A strong god pulled the rock away, and the light returned to the world. Understand the meaning of this, my friend. Darkness cannot be defeated by fighting darkness. It can only be defeated by light. Sadness cannot be cured by more sadness. It can only be cured by laughter. Laughter is the force that opens the rock door of thy heart. But look at the modern world. Look at the faces on the train, in the office. Everyone is so serious. Everyone wears a mask of gravity. They think, life is a struggle. I must be serious to survive. If I laugh, I am foolish. They think that God loves the solemn, the suffering, the ones who look like they are carrying the weight of the world. That is the greatest lie of religion. God is light. God is joy. God is high vibration. God loves laughter. Think of it. Wouldst thou want to be around a person who is always complaining, always sighing, always dark? Nay, thou wouldst flee from them. God is the same. When thou art gloomy, thou art heavy. Thou sinkest to the bottom of the spiritual ocean. God cannot reach thee there. But when thou laughest, thou becomest light. Thou floatest up to the surface where the divine light shines. I tell thee a truth that baffled my enemies. God dwells in the home where laughter is heard. Let me share with thee a scene from my own life, seen through the eyes of others. When I was thrown into prison for the second time, the authorities sought to break my spirit. I was stripped of my fine clothes, dressed in rags, and thrown into a cold, damp cell. The guards looked at me with pity and contempt. They expected to see the great teacher crumble. They expected tears, pleas for mercy, or the silence of a broken man. But what did they hear coming from cell number 1? They heard a chuckle, then a chortle, then a roaring belly laugh that echoed down the stone corridors. One guard, perplexed, asked me, "Old man, art thou mad? Thou hast lost everything. Thy temples are destroyed. Thy followers are scattered. Thou mayest face the hangman. Why dost thou laugh?" I looked at him with twinkling eyes and said, "Is this not the grandest comedy? Yesterday I was a master of millions, today I am a master of lice." The scenery changes, but the actor remains the same. God is writing a plot twist so unexpected that I cannot help but be amused. The guard backed away, frightened. He could not understand. He did not know that my laughter was my shield. By laughing, I declared to the universe, this situation does not own me. I am above it. By laughing, I purified the air in that cell. I turned a dungeon into a palace. And because I refused to be crushed, because I kept my spirit light, the darkness could not consume me. My friend, thou sayest to me, "Onisaburo, that is easy for a sage. But my life is hard. I have debts. I have sickness. I have heartbreak. I cannot laugh." I say to thee, thou hast it backward. Thou dost not laugh because thou art happy. Thou art happy because thou laughest. The action must come first. The body leads the mind in this dance. Try it now. Yes, right now, as thou watchest this. Force the corners of thy mouth upward. Even if it is fake, even if it is a grimace. Make the sound. Ha, ha, ha. Dost thou feel it? A tiny spark in the chest? A slight shift in the air? That is the Kotodama of joy breaking the crust of thy despair. Do not wait for a reason to laugh. Be the reason. Wake up in the morning. Look at the mirror, and laugh at the sleepy face staring back. When trouble comes, laugh at the absurdity of it. Say, ah, another test. This will make a good story later. Laugh at thy own mistakes. The man who can laugh at himself is never short of amusement. This is the state of Nirodha, the cessation of suffering. It is not a state of emptiness. It is a state of fullness. It is the realization that life is a divine play, and thou art the beloved protagonist. When thou canst laugh in the face of the devil loses all power over thee. We have awakened in the cave. We have opened the rock door with laughter. The light is streaming in. Now, what shall we do with this light? We cannot stay in the cave forever. We must go out into the world. We must interact with others, with the difficult ones, the hateful ones, the broken ones. We must take this newfound power and apply it to the battlefield of human relationships. The path of Magga, the path to the union, begins now. And its first step is the hardest of all. It requires us to do the unthinkable, to love those who hate us. To find God in the eyes of the enemy. Art thou strong enough for this? Chapter 7: The Path of Aizen. We have laughed in the face of darkness. We have opened the cave. Now, we must walk the path. And the first step upon this road is the steepest, the most treacherous, and yet the most glorious of all. It is the path of Aizen. Ai means love. Zen means goodness. It is the practice of love and goodness. When I speak of love, what image arises in thy mind? Dost thou think of the sweet embrace of lovers under the moonlight? Dost thou think of a mother cradling her babe? Dost thou think of the bond between sworn brothers? These are indeed forms of love. But the love of which I speak, the love that is the fundamental principle of the universe, is far vaster, far fiercer, and far more difficult. It is the love that embraces the fire. It is the love that forgives the unforgivable. Let us speak of the villains in the theater of thy life. I know thou hast them. Perhaps it is a boss who humiliates thee for his own pleasure. Perhaps it is a spouse who has grown cold and bitter, whose words are like daggers. Perhaps it is a friend who betrayed thy trust when thou needed him most. Or perhaps it is a faceless enemy, a government, a system, a society that seems determined to crush thee. When thou lookest at these people, what dost thou see? Be honest with me. Thou seest a monster. Thou seest an obstacle. Thou seest a source of pain. And what is the reaction of the natural man? I hate him. I wish he would disappear. If only he would change, I could be happy. This is the normal reaction. It is the reaction of the flesh. But as long as thou holdest this reaction, thou art trapped in the hell of Taishu Reiju. Listen to this truth, hard though it may be to swallow. The enemy outside is a reflection of the shadow inside. The chaos in thy environment is an echo of the chaos in thy soul. If thou hadst the image in the mirror, can thou change it by breaking the glass? Nay, the image remains. To change the image, thou must change the face that looks into it. I have walked this fire. During the great persecutions of our movement, I was surrounded by enemies. There were officials who sought to execute me. There were journalists who spread vile lies to destroy my reputation. There were even disciples, men I had fed and taught, who turned against me to save their own skins. In the cold interrogation room, facing a man whose only purpose was to break me, I had a choice. I could hate him. I could curse him. I could look at him and see only a devil in a uniform. But I chose a different sight. I activated the wake matama within me. I looked past his angry eyes, past his cruel mouth, past his uniform of authority. I looked deep into the core of his being. And there, buried under layers of fear, under layers of duty and delusion, I saw a tiny, flickering spark of God. I saw a soul that was suffering, just like me. A soul that was playing the role of the villain in this cosmic drama so that I might learn the lesson of fortitude. I did not feel affection for him. My emotions were raging. But love, my friend, is not an emotion. Love is an act of will. It is a decision. I decided to treat him with courtesy. I decided to pray for his soul. God, this man knows not what he does. He is lost. Bless him. Awaken him. It felt hypocritical at first. My heart screamed, no. He deserves punishment. But I forced my will to obey the Spirit. I practiced Aizen, and a miracle happened. As I continued to send waves of invisible love toward him, the atmosphere in the room changed. His aggression faltered. He became confused. The demon lost its power because there was no hatred to feed upon. Eventually, the ice melted. The man who came to destroy me ended up respecting me. This is the power of Aizen. It is the alchemy that turns lead into gold. It is the only force capable of breaking the cycle of hatred. Now, I give thee a task, a challenge for today. I want thee to think of that one person, the one thou canst not stand, the one whose face makes thy stomach churn. I want thee to pray for him. Do not pray for him to change to suit thy needs. Pray for his happiness. May he be blessed. May he find peace. May the God within him awaken. Thou sayest, I cannot do it. He does not deserve it. It matters not what he deserves. It matters what thou needest. Thou drinkest the poison of hatred and expectest the other person to die. But it is thou who art dying. Hatred is a cloud that suffocates thy own wake, Matama. By praying for thine enemy, thou art scrubbing that cloud away. Thou art purifying thine own soul. Start today, just once. Close thine eyes, visualize his face, and send a beam of light from thy heart to his. I forgive thee. I bless thee. Do it mechanically if thou must. The feeling will follow later. Do this for 7 days. I promise thee, something will shift. Perhaps his attitude will soften. Perhaps he will leave thy life peacefully. Or perhaps, he will remain the same, but thou will no longer be moved by him. He will become like a buzzing fly. Annoying, perhaps, but powerless to steal thy peace. This is the path of the spiritual warrior. It requires a strength far greater than the strength to punch or to kill. It requires the strength to love. It requires the strictness to say what is right. Yes, for love is not just softness. Sometimes love is a sword that cuts away the rot, but the hand that holds the sword must be steady with compassion, not shaking with rage. When thou canst look at the one who hurt thee and see the God within him, thou hast taken a giant leap toward Shinjin-Goitsu. Thou hast begun to see the world with God's eyes. For God loves all his children, even the wayward ones, especially the wayward ones. But love is not only an internal act. It must be expressed. It must take form in this physical world. And the highest form of expression, the language that God speaks most fluently, is beauty. To walk with God is to become an artist of life. How can a common man become an artist? Let us discover the next secret of the path. Chapter 8: The Art of Creation. Tell me, my friend, what stirs thy soul? When thou beholdest the cherry blossoms in full bloom, scattering their pink petals upon the wind. When thou gazest into the deep, infinite blue of the autumn sky. When thou standest before a painting that seems to breathe, or hearest a melody that brings unbidden tears to thine eyes. What is that feeling? It is not merely pleasure. It is not merely entertainment. It is a remembrance. Deep within the secret chambers of thy heart, something vibrates. Like a harp string plucked by an invisible hand, thy soul resonates. That vibration is the proof of God. It is the wake Matama within thee recognizing the fingerprints of the Creator in the world outside. For what is this universe, if not the supreme masterpiece of the divine artist? Every leaf, every stone, every star is a stroke of God's brush. Therefore, here this truth art is the mother of religion. Many think that religion is about dusty books and rigid laws. They are wrong. True religion is the appreciation and creation of beauty. To perceive beauty is to see God. To create beauty is to become one with God. Thou mayest say, but Onisaburo, I am no artist. I cannot paint like Hokusai. I cannot compose like Bach. I am clumsy with my hands. Ah, thou misunderstandest the nature of art. Thou thinkest art is a skill reserved for the talented few. That is the arrogance of the critics. Art is not about technique. It is about expression. It is about letting the divine light flow through thy vessel and take form in the material world. Let me tell thee of my own final days. After the wars, after the prisons, after the destruction of my temples, I was an old man. My body was weary, my hair white as snow, but a fire burned within me hotter than ever before. I turned to the clay. I sat before the mound of earth, not with the delicate touch of a master potter, but with the fierce energy of a dragon. I did not use a potter's wheel. I used my hands. I used a spatula. I dug my thumbs into the wet earth. I worked with a speed that frightened those who watched. 1 bowl, 2 bowls, 10 bowls, 100 bowls. In the span of a single year, I birthed 3,000 tea bowls. People called them yaoan, glittering bowls. They were rough. They were uneven. To the eye of a traditionalist, they were chaotic. But they were alive. Each bowl contained the rhythm of the universe. As I molded the clay, I was not thinking about the shape. I was not planning. I was chanting. I was praying. My mind was empty, and God's will flowed through my fingers directly into the earth. In those moments of creation, Onisaburo ceased to exist. There was only the dance of creation. There was no separation between the creator, the creating, and the created. That, my friend, is Shinjin-Goitsu. Why do I tell thee this? To impress thee with my pottery? Nay, I tell thee this to show thee that the act of creation is the most direct path to God. And thou? Yes, thou hast the same power. Thou art a creator by birthright. Look at thy life. Is it not a canvas? Thou needest not a brush or clay to be an artist. Consider the woman who arranges flowers in a vase to brighten her home. She is an artist. Consider the man who tends his garden, coaxing life from the soil. He is an artist. Consider the cook who prepares a meal with love, thinking of the smiles of her family. She is an artist of flavor. Consider the clerk who writes a report with clarity and elegance. He is an artist of words. Every act can be art if it is done with the spirit of love and beauty. Why is this important? Why is this a path to salvation? Because when thou createst, thou steppest out of the small self. The small self worries. The small self fears judgment. The small self asks, is this good enough? Will they like it? But the true artist asks only, is this true? Does this express the joy within? When thou art lost in the flow of creation, when hours pass like minutes, thou art in a state of divine trance. Thy worries vanish. Thy pain recedes. Thou art breathing with God. I challenge thee. Look at thy environment right now. Is it beautiful? Is it orderly? A messy room reflects a messy mind. A dark house invites dark spirits. Start there. Clean thy room, not as a chore, but as a ritual of purification. Polish the floor until it shines like a mirror. Arrange thy books with care. Bring a single flower into the room. As thou bringest order and beauty into thy physical space, thou bringest order and beauty into thy soul. And then, create something. Anything. Write a poem, even if it does not rhyme. Hum a song, even if thou art off key. Cook a new dish. Build a shelf. Knit a scarf. But here is the secret rule: do not do it for praise. Do not do it to show it on the social media of thy time. Do not do it for likes. Do it for God. Do it for the sheer joy of bringing something new into existence. When thou mockest something beautiful, thou servest the world. For a beautiful object radiates a high vibration. It uplifts the spirits of all who see it. It cleanses the atmosphere. By creating beauty, thou becomest a lighthouse in a dark ocean. The world today is ugly. It is filled with concrete, with noise, with vulgarity. That is why souls are sick. They are starved for beauty. Feed them. Be the one who brings a splash of color to the gray street. Be the one who speaks a beautiful word in a chorus of curses. The path of Aizen purifies the heart. The path of art expresses that purity. But there is one more key. The master key. The key that turns every disaster into a blessing. The key that turns great calamity into small misfortune. We must speak of the alchemy of the soul. We must speak of gratitude and the secret of the great turnaround. Chapter 9: The Alchemy of Gratitude. We have cleansed the body. We have purified the tongue. We have opened the heart with laughter and forgiveness. We have expressed our spirit through creation. Now, we arrive at the most potent magic of all. It is the alchemy of the soul. It is the secret art of turning lead into gold, of turning disaster into blessing. It is the power of gratitude. I ask thee, my friend, how many times a day does the word, thank you, cross thy lips? And when thou sayest it, what is the condition of thy heart? Most men are like merchants. They trade gratitude for goods. If I get the money, I will be thankful. If my illness is cured, I will be thankful. If she loves me back, I will be thankful. This is not gratitude. This is a business transaction. Anyone can be thankful when the sun is shining and the belly is full. Even a dog wags its tail when fed. But I speak of a gratitude that defies logic. I speak of a gratitude that stands amidst the ruins and sings praises to heaven. This is the only force capable of rewriting destiny. Let me teach thee the supreme prayer of our tradition. It is a simple phrase, yet it holds the power to shift the axis of the universe. Change great calamity into small misfortune. Change small misfortune into no misfortune. Dainan o shonen ni. Shonen o munan ni. Dost thou understand the wisdom hidden here? We do not pray, God, let nothing bad ever happen to me. That is the prayer of a child. We live in a world of karma. We live in a world of cause and effect. The seeds we have planted in the past, in this life or previous lives, must bear fruit. The storm must break, but we can change the intensity of the storm. Through the power of gratitude, we can dissolve the heavy karma before it crushes us. Let me take thee back to the ashes of 1945. The war had ended. Japan lay in ruins. I, too, had lost everything. The government had destroyed our magnificent sanctuaries in Ayabe and Kamioka. They used 1,500 sticks of dynamite to blow our temples to dust. They burned our scriptures. They imprisoned us for years. When I was finally released, and the war ended with Japan's defeat, lawyers came to me. They said, Onisaburo, the government was wrong. We must sue them. We must demand compensation for the destruction of the religious sect. We can get millions. They expected me to be angry. They expected me to demand justice. But I looked at them and shook my head. Nay, I said, we shall ask for nothing. What? They cried. But they destroyed God's house. I smiled a deep, mysterious smile and said, this was God's providence. Be grateful. I explained to them the truth they could not see. If our organization had not been destroyed, if we had remained powerful during the war, the military would have forced us to support their killing. We would have been complicit in the bloodshed. But because God hid us in prison, because God allowed our physical form to be broken, our spiritual hands remained clean. The destruction of the buildings was the great calamity, but it saved our souls from the ultimate calamity of spiritual corruption. God took the great and made it small in the grand scheme of eternity. I am grateful, I said, for through this suffering, the great cleansing is complete. This is the perspective of the Shinjin-Goitsu. When thou lookest at thy life, thou seest only the immediate pain. I lost my job. This is a disaster. I broke my leg. This is a curse. Stop. Do not judge the event so quickly. Perhaps losing that job saved thee from a career that would have destroyed thy health. Perhaps breaking thy leg stopped thee from getting on a plane that was destined to crash. Or perhaps, it is simply the payment of an old debt, a clearing of the books, leaving thee lighter than before. Therefore, the practice I give thee is this: thank God for everything. Not just the good. Thank Him for the bad. especially for the bad. When trouble knocks at thy door, bow to it and say, "Thank you, God, for this purification. Thank you for making this calamity smaller than it could have been. I accept this lesson." This sounds like madness to the worldly mind. Why should I thank the thief who stole my wallet? Because by thanking him, thou cuttest the karmic cord. If thou cursest him, thou tiest thyself to him with a rope of anger. Thou carriest him on thy back. But if thou sayest, "Thank you for teaching me detachment," thou art free. And the energy of gratitude acts as a shield, preventing further loss. Gratitude is the highest vibration in the universe. It is the frequency of the source. When thou art in a state of deep gratitude, grateful for the air in thy lungs, grateful for the beating of thy heart, grateful for the very existence of consciousness, thou becomest invincible. No devil can touch a grateful heart. No misfortune can take root in a grateful soul. It transforms the must into gift. I must go to work becomes I have the gift of work. I must care for my sick parent becomes I have the gift of time with them. The alchemy works instantly. The lead turns to gold before thine eyes. My friends, we are nearing the end of our journey. We have learned to see ourselves as spirit. We have learned to purify our words. We have learned to laugh, to love, to create, and to thank. All these are the preparations. They are the cleansing of the vessel. Now, the vessel is ready to be filled. It is ready for the final union. It is ready to realize the ultimate purpose of why thou wast born into this world. Thou art not here just to be happy. Thou art not here just to avoid pain. Thou art here for a mission that only thou canst fulfill. Let us take the final step together. Let us step into the blinding light of our true destiny. Chapter 10: The Union Man and God. My beloved friends, we have climbed the mountain together. We started in the valley of despair, where the mirror reflected only emptiness. We walked through the fire of persecution, learned to tame the tongue, unlocked the heart with laughter, and purified the soul with gratitude. Now, we stand at the summit. The air is clear, the view is infinite, and here, at the peak of spiritual evolution, I must reveal to thee the final, most important truth of all. It is the answer to the question that has haunted thee since birth. What am I doing here? Dost thou think thou wast born merely to eat, sleep, work, and die? Dost thou think thou art just a biological accident, a fleeting spark in the cold void of space? Nay, 1,000 times, nay. Thou art here on a mission. Thou art here because God needed a body. God needed hands to touch the earth, eyes to see the beauty, and a heart to feel the love. Thou art the vessel God chose to manifest His will in this specific time, in this specific place. We call this Tenbin, heaven's part, or thy calling. Many of you tremble at the word mission. You think, Onisaburo, I am not a prophet like you. I am not a revolutionary. I am just a clerk, a housewife, a student. Listen to me well, there are no small missions in the eyes of heaven. To be a doctor who heals the sick is a divine mission. To be a teacher who lights the fire of curiosity in a child's mind is a divine mission. To be a mother who raises her children with patience and deep love is a divine mission. To be a farmer who respects the soil and grows food for the community is a divine mission. The size of the stage does not matter. What matters is the actor. What matters is that thou performest thy role with the consciousness of God. When thou sweepest the floor, do not just move dirt. Sweep away the dust of the world to reveal the purity of the earth. When thou servest a cup of tea, do not just pour water. Pour thy kindness into the cup. This is Goyo, service to God. Every act, no matter how humble, becomes a sacred ritual when done with this intention. How dost thou find this mission? How dost thou know what God wants thee to do? Thou needest not travel to the ends of the earth to find it. It is not hidden in a secret scroll. It is hidden in thy joy. Ask thyself, what makes my spirit dance? What is the thing that makes thee forget time? What is the activity that brings a natural smile to thy face? Is it listening to people's troubles? Is it making things with thy hands? Is it organizing chaos into order? That joy is the compass. That joy is God whispering, "Go this way." And look also at the pain of the world. What breaks thy heart? Does the sight of a stray animal make thee weep? Does injustice make thy blood boil? Where thy deep gladness meets the world's deep hunger, that is where thy mission lies. When thou livest in alignment with thy mission, the final miracle occurs. The boundary between thee and God dissolves. This is Shinjin-Goitsu. It is not that thou becomest a god to be worshipped. It is that thou becomest a clear channel. Think of a wave and the ocean. For a long time, the wave thinks, "I am separate. I am small. I will crash and die." But one day, the wave wakes up. It realizes, "Wait, I am water. I am wet. I am salty. I am the ocean itself expressing itself as a wave." The wave does not die, it returns to the whole. Thou art that wave. Thy personality, thy memories, thy body, these are just the shape of the wave. But thy essence, thy wake matama, is the ocean. When thou realizest this, fear vanishes completely. How can the ocean fear the wind? The ocean is the power. How can the ocean lack anything? The ocean contains all life. I have lived this truth. When I stood before judges, when I wrote thousands of volumes of scripture, when I made my bowls, it was not the little man, Onisaburo, doing it. I stepped aside. I let the great life force flow through me. I became a pen in the hand of God. I became a flute played by the divine breath. And I tell thee, there is no greater ecstasy than this. To know, with every cell of thy body, that thou art supported by the entire universe. My friends, the world is waiting for thee. The world is dark, confused, and suffering. It needs thy light. It does not need more critics. It does not need more complainers. It needs awakened souls. It needs people who walk into a room and bring peace just by their presence. It needs people who speak words of hope when everyone else speaks of doom. It needs people who create beauty in the midst of ugliness. God does not have hands on this earth but thine. God does not have feet on this earth but thine. If thou doest not love, God's love remains unexpressed. If thou doest not act, God's plan remains unfinished. Are thou ready to accept this responsibility? Are thou ready to stop playing small? Are thou ready to admit the divinity that burns within thy chest? Do not look at me as a special being. I am merely a mirror showing thee thine own face. The God I serve is the same God that beats in thy heart right now. We are brothers and sisters of the same light. Take a deep breath. Feel the life force filling thy lungs. That is God. Feel the love thou hast for thy dear ones. That is God. Feel the desire to make tomorrow better than today. That is God. You are safe. You are guided. You are loved beyond measure. Now, go. The play is not over. The best act is about to begin. And this time, thou art not a victim. Thou art the co-creator. Summary: the beginning of a new era. Now, thou possessest the 7 keys of truth. To become one with God is to shed the small self and awaken to the great soul of the universe. Fear not, for from this day forth, thou art never alone. Practice these truths: laughter, prayer, and gratitude, and the divine shall surely dwell within thee. This is not the end, but the glorious dawn of thy true life. Go forth, beloved soul, and let thy light shine upon this world. Thou art protected. Thou art loved. Thank you for watching. With gratitude.